Hello.
Hey, good to see you, dude. How's it going?
All good. How about you?
Yeah, good, very good. Looks like we're live.
Indeed.
Amazing. So, hello everyone. Welcome. I'm here with Zach. We are going to be talking today about software factories, or rather, not just talking about software factories, but also building software factories. What we're going to go through today is also what this series is about. Talk about the sort of ground rules, what we're building some software factory things in public, discussing sort of harness engineering, things like that. And we'll be doing this over the course of the next 2 weeks, but we'll get into the details of that as we get on. But I don't know, Zach, I think it makes sense maybe if you want to introduce yourself, say hello, and just give people an idea of what we're doing here.
Absolutely. I'm Zach. Very pleased to be here. I have the honor to continue this journey for the next 2 weeks with Lou, building out a self-driving and self-maintaining code base. Ultimately, the goal is to step away from just showing you a ready product and really take you on the journey on what it takes to build this product. We've done a lot of work on background agents over the last few weeks. Many of you will have seen the background agent website as well. But there's still a lot of uncertainty around how you would go ahead and build a self-driving code base or a software factory. So the next 2 weeks are really going to take you onto this journey. We'll share everything very transparently on how to set things up, what works well out of the box, what doesn't work well out of the box. And I think that's going to be quite exciting. We'll be streaming every day, 5 p.m. UK time, 9 a.m. For you folks in San Francisco. And I think that's going to be very exciting. So today is really a little bit about setting things up, talking about what we're trying to build, which is also a baseline. We'll be taking any feedback from the community into how we can shape the product. And
Amazing.
You've done a lot of work on background agents. Maybe we summarize quickly where we're at with the thinking on the landscape, how Ono plays into the environment, and go from there.
Yeah, sure. So as sort of Zach mentioned, so we did release a microsite a few weeks ago, backgroundagents.com, and we've done a number of different webinars and sort of conversations around that, talking about the primitives, the infrastructure behind background agents, and sort of the prevailing feedback we sort of got was, okay, great, I like the idea, I want to start exploring this. So what we did is we also built out a landscape, and on that landscape we are just creating the different tools within the ecosystem that help you building out sort of a background agents and software factory itself. But one other thing that keeps coming up, and so I've just come actually back from AI Engineer, which was in London this last week, and one continual piece of feedback is so much conversation about software factories, background agents in general, but many people sort of saying, how do you do this? Like, what does it look like in practice? So, one of the most prominent sort of blog posts and pieces about this that everyone keeps referencing is from OpenAI. Actually, I have it here. I can actually just pull it up on screen as well, just as I'm talking. Let me throw my screen on stage as well. So this post actually from Ryan, what he talks about in this blog post is this idea of harness engineering. So for an internal application at OpenAI, they basically tried to or challenge themselves not to write any code at all with the engineers, and instead encode as much of that as possible into the repository, into the script. So every time, let's say, an agent didn't do something that they anticipated, they encoded that into agents.md, a script, a gate, a check, a lint, a CI, etc., to try and get to this point where they could ship as much as possible using agents by encoding as much of that into the repository as they could. So like I mentioned, so I've come back from AIE, and there was a lot of talk about similar kind of topics, like how do you run multiple agents in parallel? How do you make this make sense? How do you make sure that agents stay on track? But I think one of the biggest questions there is really, how do you do it? Like, what does it look like to do? And that's really what we wanted to do, isn't it, Zach? That's what we wanted to do here, is actually do this in public, start from scratch, because I think if you start with a half created product, it's kind of like, well, how do you get to that point? So starting from entirely from scratch, building as far as we can in 2 weeks, using this sort of approach around harness engineering, software factories, and owner, and then really see how far we can push the boundaries, and see what works, what breaks, where we're at in terms of agents and what they can do, and really give an honest sort of picture about how that looks. But what's your take, Zach? What is your definition of sort of software factory, and what has been your experience
totally.
so
I mean,
far?
like the ideal case is that we as engineers, we don't even have to touch the code. We take time to think about architecture. We take time to think about the features, what the user wants, define a spec, raise issues, and that our software factory or our agents in production are actually able to go end to end from taking the issue, taking the feature, and shipping it in a trusted way, where we can say the code quality is great, the code has been tested, and we have a full integration into the software development lifecycle. That is, I think, the goal with a software factory. I think a lot of people have started experimenting with vibe coding and how we can go from not writing any more code, which is great, but the reality is that there's still a lot of manual work involved even in vibe coding when it comes to deployment, when it comes to code reviews. Do you do them? Do you not do them? Obviously, in a production environment, in an enterprise environment, you need to do them. And how do we get from a stage where everything is manual to everything is completely automated? I think that was quite neatly summarized in the blog post, right? If we look at the software development lifecycle, the planning stage is, I would say, pretty much solved, right? You can plan a feature quite easily with your AI agent by using them iteratively or giving them a quite defined spec, what you want. The coding part as well, right? Step 2, writing the code. The majority of engineers now rely on AI to actually help them ship code much faster. And then the review step as well is something that Codex, Claude have automated and made a lot easier already. The next 2 steps in the lifecycle, the test and deploy steps, are really the 2 steps that aren't very well integrated in the majority of cases yet, because they still require a lot of human in the loop or automation when it comes to environments. This is obviously where ONA is stellar at with the cloud environments, that we can pick up the issues without an engineer in the loop. You don't rely on a machine to run the code. Everything runs in the cloud, and that really enables you to run things autonomously and ultimately to create this conveyor belt of a software factory. And this is what we're going to do as well.
Yes, exactly. So we probably would be good, I guess, to align as well, like on the ground rules for the project. So no human code, right? So we're not going to type a single line of code. Everything is going to be agent driven. That the agents are creating all the features, they're fixing all the bugs, they're solving everything. I assume we're going to also try our best to push this as far on the product side as well, in terms of raising issues and feature direction, using as much AI we can there. But this is also building a real product, right? So people can access that product, they can play with it. The source code is also entirely public as well. I think this is a common question we certainly get, especially with AI, is like, what is the quality of the code? Like, so in this case, what we're doing is everything is public. So you can look for yourself. And I think over the course of the project, right, we will integrate linters and sort of code quality things. But at the end of the day, the proof is in the code itself, and you can go and have a look at it. And I think that's one of the great things here, because then you can go through all the context and you can have a look at the code and make decisions for yourself about the quality of it, as much as we can create reports and all of this stuff. I think that's really great. But is there anything else I'm missing there? Are there any other ground rules that we're going
pretty
to
much, right? Like we're really looking forward to building something autonomously. We don't want to write any code. What we are going to do is really define the direction. What's the product we're building? What are the features that we're building? We're not ideally going to raise any issues. The product will find issues itself. Obviously, when it comes to AI, there is still a lot of on the UI side where bugs are not necessarily bugs, but they just don't work as we envisioned them. So this is where human in the loop is still required. But any infrastructure, any deployment fixes that are required are going to come from the code and from the automations itself, right? So this is the ground rules. So we are not going to touch much on our side. We're going to set things up at the beginning and then run it as autonomously as possible. That's where we're going. I think maybe it makes sense to actually think about and talk about what we're building in the first place. What have we envisioned? We're going to start with basically a Notion-like app, allowing you to create your workspaces, allowing you to take notes, take care of the architecture around it, that you can invite your workspace members, share the articles, upload images, etc. And then we're going to use this product to go and extend it as much as possible over the next 2 weeks. So any suggestions, what could be cool to see, please let us know. When it comes to the stack, we're going to obviously build a web app to make it easy for everyone to log in, play around with the app. We're going to deploy on Vercel. We're going to use Supabase for the backend. We're going to use Sentry for monitoring. This stack allows us to really focus on the lifecycle rather than on deployment. Obviously, everything that we do can be done in an enterprise stack as well. If you deploy on AWS, use Aurora for the database. Everything is possible there as well, but we are really focusing on the lifecycle. We are focusing on building the factory. This is why we chose this stack to begin with.
Yes, I was just going to say, I love like also the Sentry side of it, right, as well, because it's not just the code generation, but it's also the monitoring and operations of this. That's, typical things that we also, we speak to our customers a lot about is how do you, there's all that busy work around, there's the shipping of code. And I think there's a lot of emphasis on that a lot of the time. But then there's also things like triaging incidents, triaging sort of on-call and pages and things like that. So I think it's really nice that we're also tackling all of those aspects, because that for me is part of the software factory piece. Like, it's not just shipping new features, but it's also maintaining what is already there as well. So it's really nice that we're
exactly database health, front end, back end. This is where we really want to automate. We don't want to rely on us humans to take care of it and really scale this. Because if you think about it, as your repository number grows, it really becomes more of a bottleneck if everything needs to be done by humans. And if we can get the factory to really ship code and fixes and features autonomously at a high quality and we can rely on it, it really is a game changer.
Amazing. So is there anything, Zach, you wanted to actually go through in terms of this session then, running through anything to show that you wanted to show for this time? Or
yes, let me just kind of run you through where we are starting from.
Amazing. Whilst you get that set up as well, I'll just throw my screen onto the stage as well and just talk about this. So for folks following along, we'll talk about this as well a little bit later as well, but also software-factory.dev. So software-factory.dev. If you go there, everything is going to go on there and be published as we go through. So if you want to follow along, I think you can also sign up on there, right? So you can get email updates as well. And we're on LinkedIn, YouTube, and various different social media. But yes, but anyway, so Zach, it seems like I can see your screen. I've got owner up here.
Yeah, exactly. So just to give you a quick outline where we're starting, we're really starting from zero. There's nothing in our repo yet. There's no automations set up. This is our only project in our workspace. As you can see, the automations list right now is completely empty. Our insights show that there's nothing going on. This is really starting from scratch, what you can do yourself as well. And this is where we're going to start from. So the goal is that we use Owner end-to-end. We're going to use Owner to set up the automations. We're going to use Owner to write the spec, plan out how we're working, and to build this product ultimately. Maybe give you a bit of background. Owner obviously has planning modes, has execution modes. We're going to use planning to write our spec. We're going to use the planning mode to set up our automations. And this is probably where the most human in the loop is still required for us to review the automations, see if it makes sense, see if it covers all the steps in the software development lifecycle. And from there on, once we're happy with it, we can hit deploy and watch the code, deploy the code, basically. So for today, what we can actually do is review how we would spec out the automations. All right, so what we could do is actually go into plan mode here and really ask Owner to write us automations, for example, to deploy. We will probably hit this later on. But what we can do as well is like quickly walk through the automations feature and align with background agents, right? We have the plan mode, we have the code mode, we have the review, test, and deploy. We want to have an automation for each of them, right? At the beginning, what we will do is we will have our feature builder really build our specs for the individual features that we need. We will then work with the webhooks together with GitHub webhooks to really deploy each step of the software development lifecycle and really work on getting the automations going. Lou, I'm not sure if we want to do this right now or if we're gonna go into this tomorrow potentially. But let me just quickly review. I think it might make sense.
Yep. I suppose whilst you set that up there as well, Zach, so I'll just mention as well. So we're obviously building this all inside of Owner, and folks can follow along with their own sort of coding agent tools and build something similar if they would like to. But I think one thing that's really important about what Owner does, and that's the automations feature. So that allows you to run agents effectively in the background and on schedules and on triggers. And I think that is really the sort of key ingredient here that allows us then to start to automate as much of this as we can, because we can run multiple agents, we can parallelize them, we could run 10, we could run 20, but it's always going to be constrained by our own sort of attention here. So I think the automation side of it is very critical, and it's a capability that you have within Owner to run these automations then in the background. And I think that is really one of the key ingredients that makes this possible, so that you're waking up in the morning to pull requests or changes, etc., and we're starting to automate as much of that as possible, so that it's not tied then to you as an individual sat at your desk, but you can automate as many of those tasks that we come across. And of course, we'll come across many, I'm sure, over the course of the next 2 weeks.
Totally. So I think what might make sense really to think about, what do we need to give the agent on day one, right? So we have essentially decided on our stack, right? We're going to use Next.js 16 as our framework. We're going to use Supabase. This is really kind of like front end, back end. Sentry, which is at the core of our feedback loop. Those are things that we all need to set up. We're not going to show you that on screen. This is fairly boring. Also, we need to set up all the secrets and environment variables in the background on the owner account. Now, once the baseline is set up, we then need to think about, okay, what's the harness in which the agent operates? And I think this goes back quite nicely to our harness engineering point. We want to give the agent a little bit of a framework in which it operates, right? What's the framework? What's our desired feedback loop? What is the direction that we want to go? Especially also, I think, Lou, we talked about it earlier, is the question around design. We will give the agent a rough design framework to which we want to operate in. We will obviously iterate on design as well. I think a lot of people are always thinking about how can actually get good design using agents. And this is, I think, a very interesting topic where we can have the human in the loop factor still present. And yeah, I think that's the rough framework. When it comes to our harness itself, right, there's going to be an agents MD file that you will be able to see in the repo. There's going to be our dev container setup that we'll be able to see in the repo, and all the changes that we deploy to these as well. The agents MD file will actually be written by Owner as well, based on our guidelines. And yeah, maybe let's quickly go into the initial prompting.
I suppose one question as well, Zach, that folks will probably have as well is like, what will we do in terms of reviewing of diffs and code?
Yeah, so initially the goal is really that we run it autonomously. We will on screen look at the code quality. We will look at what the agent has deployed. We will not necessarily intervene at the beginning. I trust the agent to follow our instruction, to follow our guidelines when it comes to architecture, to code security, to, for example, how we want to structure the database. Obviously, it was something where we'll have to iterate and figure out how good the code quality is. Naturally, all the features that we design initially will go through our integration tests. If they pass, it will be automatically merged into the production base. Anything that is bug fix related or issues that are being raised from the community is something where we will do the final review manually, especially if it's to do with an outside issue that has been raised, just to make sure that the code quality stays consistent.
Amazing. Was there anything else that you wanted to demo on your side then, Zach? Or
I think I would push the demo for tomorrow.
Demo tomorrow?
Wonderful. Yeah, I think we demo for tomorrow, go through the initial setup, go through what we have been building. There's some prompting. I think that we should talk about why we prompt a certain way to get into the initial state. And yeah, I think then there will be a nice kickoff.
Amazing. Yes. So today is also a little bit different, right? Because each of the subsequent days, we will actually then be running through what sort of owner has built in the meantime. So today is really sort of just the kickoff. Should we do a little bit of housekeeping then? Well, I might return back to sort of the Software Factory website, maybe pull that back on screen, and just we can talk briefly about what people can sort of expect. How often are we streaming? When are we streaming? Where are we streaming? How do they follow along? Could you take us through that?
100%. So the software-factory.dev site will be the our baseline. You can find all the resources on this website. We will update the website every day with the metrics that we have been shipping. You can find the schedule on the website as well. Again, we stream every day, Monday to Friday for this week and next week, 5 p.m. UK time, 9 a.m. San Francisco time. You can sign up here for updates. We will send you a few emails as we go along, hopefully with interesting content. You'll find all the recordings, all the videos, some clips here as well. And yeah, this will really be your HQ. You can also find us on Twitter, either directly through owner_HQ or SW_factory_dev. We'll be automating as well the metrics. So every time we publish a PR, you'll be able to see what has been merged. And yeah, we can also talk you through maybe tomorrow how we set that up if you're looking to automate your socials on that side. And yeah, I think that is pretty much the website and the housekeeping.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah, I'm super excited for this because, like I say, so many people I've talked to ask so many questions about like, how do you do this in practice? So very excited for this series now to run across the next couple of weeks. And like you say, engage with us on social media because we would love to know what you think as we go and let us know your feedback. You've got access to the source code and we'll share that as well. And then you can let us know what you think we should experiment with. I think if you have MCPs that you think we should integrate with or certain tools, or you want to steer the project in a specific direction, if you drop us a message on social media or once we share the GitHub, you can also drop in issues in there as well. And then also steer it from that side. And we'll see how far we get in 2 weeks' time.
That sounds very good. Great. I think then for today, we're all caught up. And we'll see you guys tomorrow for some actual building.
Amazing. All right. Thanks, Zach.
Cheers.
Bye.